Welcome back to Chamber Exchange, the TV show. Well, again, we want to thank our sponsors who make the show happen, Worcester Regional Airport and the Worcester Railers Hockey Club. We're keeping our fingers crossed that the Railers will be able to start their season in January, but we'll wait and see, as we all do with the current COVID situation. And I'm thrilled to have with us in this segment, Julie Jacobson, who is the town manager for the town of Auburn. And for those our viewers who are not familiar, the Worcester Regional Chamber of Commerce consists of 5 affiliate partner chambers that we work closely with in a variety of different ways to promote economic development in the region, 35 cities and towns. And one of those affiliate chambers is the Auburn Chamber. And in that capacity, we have the pleasure of working with the town manager, Julie Jacobson. And again, for our viewers who are not familiar with Julie Jacobson, she has been the town manager now coming up in Auburn. It'll be 10 years in January. Prior to that, she was the interim president CEO at the chamber and served in the planning office for the city. But when she left the chamber, former city manager O'Brien hired her as the assistant city manager of the city of Worcester, in charge of, and also the chief development officer for the city of Worcester and executive director of the Worcester Redevelopment Authority. So economic development is something that comes easily to Julie, but she works hard at it and has had a lot of success both in Worcester and in Auburn. So Julie, welcome.
Thanks. Thank you, Tim. It's nice to see you again.
Likewise, and welcome back to the show, albeit in a different format. But you know, your 10-year career in Auburn, we'll focus on that, has been successful in a variety of fronts. But certainly, given your time in the city of Worcester in municipal government and 10 years in Auburn, you've never had to grapple with a 100-year pandemic.
That's right. This has been such a challenge for anybody in municipal government, as you can imagine. Regardless of whether we're a smaller town or a larger city, we're dealing with the same issues. You know, we're forced to take measures that we've never taken before. We have to now implement new ways of doing business. We have to continue to provide services to our community. Yet we need to keep in mind the safety of our employees as well as the safety of our residents. And how to deliver those services has become such a challenge to everybody.
And Auburn, in many ways, has some unique challenges, and there are actually opportunities in good times. But as it relates to battling the COVID situation, major road networks, coming through the town, some significant, retail and health delivery hubs. Next to Worcester, so you're not in isolation. You're very much a crossroads for much of New England.
It's true, and we have a very strong and large business community that we know has made several sacrifices over the past several months as we've all learned how to battle this pandemic. And as you know, many of the governor's orders, DPH, the CDC, come out with guidelines, regulations, orders, requirements, and they change constantly as scientific data changes on how to best manage and protect our residents from the spread of COVID. So as those scientific facts become better known, it's forcing government officials to change their regulations and change the way they're doing business. Almost at one point, Tim, almost on a daily basis, we were getting different regulations and orders that we have to implement. And it makes sense because the scientific information about the disease has changed on a daily basis as well.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, so many of our businesses have been hit really hard. Some sectors, impacted more adversely than others. Brick and mortar businesses, retail, certainly, restaurants, hospitality sectors, of which Auburn, has a fair amount. But congratulations to the town and the board of the select board in Auburn that just recently voted to continue their efforts in moving towards a single tax rate, which is, more fair and equitable. But it's especially important for our businesses during this time when they've been hit so hard.
No, you're right. It's absolutely important. And I think the Board of Selectmen recognized the challenges between finding a balance between making sure that you're helping your residential community as well as your business community. And I think they did a really good job in doing that. To help their decision this year at town administration, we made a lot of changes. We actually reduced our budget at our town meeting on October 27th. We reduced it by $1.3 million. And we have now whittled down the budget so that we're not going to be using any of the available funding under Proposition 2.5 that we could use. So since I've been here, we have not taxed to Prop 2.5 at all. So we've saved the taxpayers of the community $41 million plus over the last 10 years of monies that we did not tax. And, it's crises like these and global pandemics like this that you can never anticipate, but certainly you need to plan for. That shows the wisdom of the board and town meeting to continue to budget conservatively, because you need to save it so-called for a rainy day. And this was the year that the board was still able to make a move toward reducing that rate for the business community, and yet not have a major impact on the residents who are also hurting.
Yeah, and certainly as it's something that goes a long way and is helpful and sends a signal in a positive direction to the businesses that are here, and you hope will stay here as we work our way through this COVID economic and healthcare crisis. It sends that right signal. And going back to the COVID situation and the remainder of the segment, based upon, as you said, the science and the facts as they change and evolve, state government gives various directives and guidance to cities and towns and the public at large. You have to adapt to that. The other thing you've had to adapt to, and you've alluded to it in your comments just a moment ago, is the uncertainty with the state budget. Until that's finalized, it's really hard for towns and cities to make decisions as well.
That's right. The uncertainties make it such a challenge to develop a budget that is going to be sustainable. We were very conservative in our initial budget projections, as we usually are. We wanted to make sure that we didn't rely too heavily on the state numbers as they were coming in, because we just don't know where they're going to land. And as you said, from the state perspective, and you certainly as Lieutenant Governor know how difficult this is to make decisions statewide based on information that changes on a daily basis across the country. So I think the state has done a good job of keeping us informed, but yet as a municipality, we still need to make sure that we're managing our budgets, that we have contingency plans in place in case any of those funding sources that we're relying on from the state don't come to fruition during the current fiscal year.
Yeah, and in a similar fashion, our state officials are waiting on, what the feds will do. Certainly, the first iteration of the CARES Act was very helpful to states and ultimately cities and towns. The fact that there has not been a subsequent movement on the successor to the CARES Act, the HEROES, has created a level of uncertainty, not just in state government, but the cities and towns across the country. And hopefully, now that the election has been decided and we have President-elect Biden coming in, it'll allow the Senate and Congress to focus in January on passing something.
Yeah, we certainly hope that we see an additional CARES Act funding coming from the federal government soon. It was critical to us to be able to put into both FEMA and the CARES Act for reimbursement of COVID-related expenditures. But Tim, those CARES dollars don't provide for revenue replacement. So if you've lost revenues, as we do, hotel, motel taxes, restaurant fees coming in through car sales, all of that affects municipalities, and the CARES dollars could not be put toward lost revenues. So it became a challenge as to what you could use those dollars for and what the eligible expenditures were. So we certainly hope we get another CARES funding bill through in early January, because our COVID expenses aren't going to stop when the CARES Act stops December 30th.
Well, let's pick up on that when we come back in the next segment and talk a little bit about other ways you're trying to fill some of those revenue gaps with some great economic development projects that you've led in Auburn. Stay with us. We're going to be right back with Julie Jacobson, Town Manager from Auburn.
Let's all do our part to safely support small business during these challenging times. From delicious dinners, to great fashion finds, to that perfect pick-me-up, Worcester is open for business. Join your community in entering the We Love Worcester photo contest today. Visit discovercentralmass.org for details. Worcester, we're in this together.